Hi there, and welcome to Aztecs Talks, another episode of our bi-weekly podcast where we look at different English topics that could be of use to you in the workplace and in your lives in general.
All right, great meeting. So just please send me all your ideas before EOD. This meeting could have just been an email, but I'm very lonely.
So my name is Patrick, and today we're going to take a look at some business tips for meetings. Okay, so we'll go through step by step from before the meeting happens to during the meeting and to after the meeting and a little follow-up as well. So without further ado, let's get started and get into the topic.
So let's just jump right in. Come on, folks, we just started.
So when you are preparing or waiting for a meeting, particularly when it's not in your first language, preparation is key. And I know that preparing for a meeting where you're already going to talk about potentially something that isn't the most riveting or exciting topic can be like watching paint dry. So yes, it is incredibly important that you prepare and that you are ready for the topics that are going to be handled.
But Amy, you, me, what you got?
Is there something specific you wanted updates on?
The Johnson account.
We don't have a client by that name.
So yes, that is kind of tip one. Know your agenda, okay? So a clear agenda is your best friend. Think of it as a cheat sheet or something like that where, if someone is talking in the meeting, you can always refer to your notes that you've prepared before just to keep an eye on where you are in the meeting and what is being discussed. Because sometimes you can be listening to the words that someone is saying, but not actually paying attention to the important parts of the meeting, the detail, the content of the meeting or the presentation that someone is giving. Okay, and here the absolute worst case scenario is going into a meeting thinking you're going to talk about one thing, and in the end you're talking about something quite different. It can happen from time to time where yes, the agenda is set and maybe the meeting goes off topic a little bit, and in the end you talk about something totally different. So yes, it's good to be prepared for what you can be prepared for, and then if something happens where the meeting goes off track or not according to plan, then you have done all you can to be prepared. But yes, control the controllables would be the tip for preparation of a meeting that's not in your first language.
But will this scale? One of the managing directors once used that phrase in a meeting, so now I use it all the time.
Let's move on to the second tip, okay? So we've looked at preparing the meeting. Another another tip that we can suggest before going into a meeting that's not in your first language is maybe just getting yourself up to date on key vocabulary and structures that you might want to use in the meeting, okay? So key business jargon, business expressions, like for example, to touch base, to circle back, things like this that kind of sound sporty. And maybe they are a little. Those idiomatic expressions are sporty, but it's not necessarily the case. Sometimes they translate quite well into business contexts. Okay, so when you're listening out for those little idiomatic expressions, you don't have to focus on them too much because they're not the most important part of what they're saying. You can kind of take those idiomatic expressions in your stride and listen to what you are circling back on, what you are going to revisit another day, rather than the actual high-level expression that is being used there.
Let's take this offline. Yeah, can we pick this up again? Just maybe 15 minutes after never again.
And yes, imagine if someone says to you, for example, let's take this offline, okay? That doesn't mean necessarily they want to fight you or anything like that, or take this outside in a face-to-face context. That just means maybe they want to talk a little bit privately about the matter that is not to be discussed in front of many people. But yeah, it's something that's maybe something that's better to be discussed in private. But yeah, so second tip, just make sure that you are aware of business vocabulary and key words and phrases that may appear during the meeting.
Who's a pretty pony? You're a pretty
Hello?
pony.
Not playtime.
So, we have prepared the meeting as best we can beforehand. So what about the meeting itself? Handling any conversations that that can appear during the meeting, okay? So, let's start with the key. Small talk before the meeting. Yes, we're not robots. We like to go into a meeting when we know the people, but talk a little bit about what they're interested in or the last conversation that you had with them. So yeah, that human interaction is incredibly important, although not important for the meeting that you're going to discuss. Okay, so yeah, talking about the weather, talking about a sports team that maybe the other person is interested in, or maybe they are a foodie. Talk about what they cooked for dinner last night. Little nice topics to get the meeting started, okay? Before you really get into the nitty gritty, the important stuff, okay?
Did you catch the game last night?
Which one?
And once the small talk is out of the way, then we get into the body of the meeting, okay? The reason why you are all there.
I feel like you're not actually listening to me.
Yeah, sure.
Are you
Yeah,
actually
okay.
not listening to me,
no,
or
I
are
get
you
it.
saying that you
Okay,
get
sure.
that it seems
yeah,
that
totally.
way?
Yeah, that makes sense.
One of the key points before you do any speaking, or maybe if you have to speak first, then you're a little unlucky, but a key element of a meeting that is not in your first language is active listening. And you may be listening to this thinking, I know how to listen. It's easy. You just have to sit there. But in a meeting where you're not completely comfortable with or completely in control of the language that is being spoken, active listening is incredibly important. Okay, so your ability to listen to what is being said, take notes where necessary, so that you don't lose your place in the meeting, because if you switch off for a moment, then the meeting can go in a different direction, and then you can get lost. Okay, so yes, that is something that I have noticed, that you have to be switched on, and maybe those meetings are a little bit more exhausting or tiring in the beginning, but yeah, always go to those meetings with a notebook so you can note the important points, because as I said earlier, it's not just about hearing the words they say and understanding them, but having a deep understanding of the content that is being delivered. So if something is more important to your area, then you can take a note of it and maybe ask questions about it as well for further clarification from the person that is leading the meeting.
Let's pull back on that for a second. I fell asleep while you were talking and I have no idea what's happening. Huh?
And of course, that said, it's okay not to understand things. Sometimes, yeah, you might not follow everything that's being said, and all of a sudden, someone asks you a question, and you're lost. In this case, it's a great skill to be able to pivot and pose the question back to the speaker by asking for clarification. Can you elaborate on that point? I didn't quite catch the last thing you said. Put it back on them so you can have a second chance to understand exactly what is being said, and that makes you sound much more competent, and that you're asking for clarity rather than waffling, speaking with no control because you haven't understood or heard exactly what the speaker is saying. So asking for clarification in situations like that is absolutely okay.
I think if you want to invest $500,000 in your friend's business, that's exactly what you should do. Albert, no, you don't need us to tell you what to do. We're a board of advisors. We're not your kindergarten teachers.
So a fifth tip that I would have would be to not be afraid to speak up. And of course it is intimidating to speak up and express yourself in another language, especially in a professional context where there are lots of competent individuals around. But yeah, in a room full of native speakers, and if you're not a native speaker, people don't expect perfection. They just expect clarity, okay? So don't necessarily, yeah, it's okay to understand the business jargon and expressions that are being said, and that is done in your preparation phase as much as you can with practice before. But you don't have to use them necessarily in your speaking, because sometimes that can lose the clarity when you're trying to, wow the audience. In this case, you're probably not trying to wow the audience. You are trying to express yourself in a way that is easy to understand and clear as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to speak up. Use the language that you are comfortable with, and try your best to participate where you can in these meetings.
Guys, we're still trying to replace Giambi. I told you we can't do it. We can't do it. Now, what we might be able to do is recreate him.
And my next tip would be to summarize the key points, okay? So if it's your turn to speak, give a quick summary of what was discussed, because it helps everyone leave the meeting on the same page, okay? So you might want to use expressions like, just to recap, to summarize, just to conclude what we were talking about. We've decided to move forward with project C. Okay, and then you can use little expressions that you've heard before about touching base or circling back on a certain topic. Okay, and then yes, you can detail the next steps, but little expressions that are useful to summarize, like let's recap, or just to go back on what we have discussed, things like that. Okay. And another point on that is that, summarizing shows that you are paying attention to what is being said. So that goes back to the active listening section that we talked about earlier. So, summarizing the key points that you've written down in the notebook that you have brought with you just shows that you were understanding what was going on. It shows your competence. So, like we said, when you're speaking, you don't have to wow the audience with perfection in your English, but being clear and being aware of what is going on shows all the competence that you need. And summarizing those points, and maybe asking the group in the meeting that if I have missed anything, let me know. Things like that. Okay, so that it shows that yes, you have taken a note of everything you can, and it's possible that even native speakers miss a point or miss an important point. Okay, so then people in the meeting can keep you right as well. Okay, so summarizing those key points, making sure that you didn't miss the information or miss any important information by just posing the question to the floor, to the rest of the participants.
Here's that report you needed.
I don't see anything.
Oh, dang it! I forgot to attach it.
And the last tip that I would have for you in this episode is to send a follow-up email, just summarizing the points and the action steps that are going to be taken. This shows really good organization skills, and it shows that you care about what is going on in not only in the meeting, but for the action steps that need to be taken for the next meeting or the next deadline in the project. Okay, so just a little summary, bullet point summary of what you've been talking about. It's like the meeting was the present or the gift, and the email is the little bow and letter that you're attaching to the present that you're going to give to the attendees of the meeting. Okay, so having that little summary just to show that you care about what's happened. The meeting is in writing, and then you kind of double down, you make sure that people know what has been going on in that meeting. Okay,
let's pick that up in the next meeting. I need a few days to figure out what the hell you're talking about.
And there you have it. So a few useful tips to improve your capacity when dealing with meetings in English. So to recap, or to circle back a little bit, what we looked at to really have good command of your meetings was to prepare thoroughly before the meeting, to master some key vocabulary and expressions, then also to actively listen. Okay, so to take notes, and that is something that has been incredibly useful for me in my experience with dealing with meetings in a different language. So yes, listen to what the speaker is saying, but also, yeah, take a note of the key details of what they are actually saying, not just understanding the words and the expressions that they are using. Don't be afraid to speak up, okay? So use the English that you're confident with, because clarity is the most important thing. You don't want to challenge yourself with expressions that you're not 100% sure on, okay? So speaking with native speakers, the most important thing is that clarity of your message, okay? And that will again show competence as well, that you are understanding what is going on, and that you can also deliver your message as well in a clear and concise way. And then at the end of the meeting, to finish with a summary to ensure that you have all the information that you need from the meeting, and also posing that question to other people to see if you missed any key information, and then the follow-up email at the end, which is also a good way to practice your speaking skills. Okay, and then yeah, after a while, if you keep repeating this process, then you will become more and more confident in your meetings. Okay, and all of a sudden you will be the one leading the meeting and not just a listening participant. Okay, because I know that in a meeting in another language, yeah, the feeling that you're never going to speak is something that there is a real barrier for a lot of people in a meeting. So no problems. I hope you find these tips useful and that you can take them away and maybe implement them in your meeting preparation in the future. And yeah, keep hustling, keep smiling, and keep circling back and keep recapping. Okay, that applies to your meetings, but also your English learning journey in general. So I'll see you next time. Hopefully you enjoyed, and yeah, subscribe to any channel that we have, and keep practicing your English. Okay, so see you next time. Thanks for watching.